Stand on it. I'm asking you to do a lot, Clay, aren't I? Yeah. Okay, it's 6 p.m., so we call the meeting to order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, August 22nd. If you would at this time, please rise for an invocation, followed by our pledge. Ms. Jones.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come thanking you for all of your amazing blessings. Lord, we thank you for another opportunity to be here and meet. And God, we ask that you be in the midst. Lord, we ask that you be with commissioners, lead, guide, and direct them and help them to make decisions that are pleasing unto you. God, we ask that you bless our community, and we ask that you bless our country as a whole. God, we ask that you just continue to touch, lead, guide, and direct. We thank you for all of your amazing blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Would you join in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Okay, next on the agenda is a public hearing. This is a hearing to discuss an ordinance revision for providing standards for the applicant-initiated postponement of zoning-related processes, establishing application withdrawal standards, clarifying responsibilities of both the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners for holding public hearings, and providing for repeal conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. With that, I entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, just, okay, it's unanimous. The public hearing is now open. We have no one signed up to make any comments for the public hearing, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the public hearing is now closed. With that, Mr. Curry.
Mr. Chairman and board members, this is something that came up fairly recently because of a couple of rezoning cases that have not quite, well, one won't make it to you and the other one will in the near future. We were requested by the applicants to delay their application before it made it to the boards, but we had advertised. And as the zoning administrator, I just didn't feel that I had anything in the ordinances to say, no, you may not postpone it. And so I brought this to the attention of the county manager and the planning commission, and we discussed it. And the major problem was for the public. There's one particular neighborhood that was on high alert for this particular rezoning, which has been withdrawn since all this started. So and that happened twice. They were on high alert. The signs were out, posted. We'd already advertised. They requested the postponement. I really had no basis to deny their request for postponement, so we did it. But it wasn't fair, I don't think, to the public. So talking to the county manager and the planning commissioners, we came up with the ordinance changes that you see here. It's reflected. It's basically the same language in the 5 different sections, so it really doesn't vary much. Basically what it does is just say that you may postpone it before we do any advertising, before any letter that's required to go out goes out, before it's published in the newspaper, and before the sign's posted. Once any of those 3 things are done, that's it. You can't postpone it. Now, you can go before the Planning Commission or the Board of Commissioners and certainly request them to continue your public hearing. That happens on a regular basis. But it would put it into the hands of the Planning Commission, potentially the Board of Commissioners, and at least the public would be allowed to you can still hold the public hearing. So they would not have to worry about, is this meeting going to be canceled? No, once it's advertised, it's going to happen. And that's the purpose of this, basically to help the public, that once I see ads, I don't have to worry about, oh, it might be withdrawn, and I've got to pay attention to whether it's postponed or not. This time, once you've been noticed, you may not postpone it. It's still, the ordinance change allows for 1 postponement before that advertising, but you can't do it more than once, and it can't be for more than 90 days. The first person, the reason why is there were some legal issues going on, and she felt it necessary to ask for these postponements, and the legal issues continued, so that was her basis for postponement. The second one, once I got deeper into his application, I realized what he was asking, the rezoning, couldn't do it. I had not discovered that until earlier, and we'd already, no signs had been posted, but the ad had been placed in the newspaper. And generally, unfortunately, that's the way it happens, is they don't really get deeply into the application and what it's asking until at least after the newspaper ad, because that's 2 weeks before the meetings. So this will remedy that situation. It also clarifies the withdrawals when they withdraw. Now, it's fairly liberal withdrawal. Basically, you can withdraw at any time you want to and say, I'm just withdrawing my whole application. If I ever come back, I've got to start over again. This really only helps in the rezoning cases, because if they see that they're going to lose or suspect they will before they come before the Board of Commissioners, if they get turned down, they can't return for a year. Now, if they sort of see, well, or they hear or whatever, this isn't going to go my way, they can withdraw. Before we get to that point, maybe they can rethink their project, maybe talk to somebody, see what might be more acceptable, and they don't have to wait that whole year once they've been rejected or denied for especially the rezoning. We don't really have those limitations and variances and special exceptions or even really appeals, but it really does apply, especially in rezoning cases. And then at the bottom of the ordinance, there's some changes in the hearing language. It doesn't change your hearings at all. It's the way we've been doing it for as long as I've worked here, but the language in the ordinance actually misrepresented how we do it. And that's that you hold a public hearing and the Planning Commission holds a public hearing. And the language that we have in the ordinance says that you have delegated the Planning Commission to have the public hearing. And then another section, it sort of indicates that you hold the public hearing. So hopefully the changes towards the end of this ordinance clear that language up, that both bodies hold public hearings. And that's a summary, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So we would like this to be considered the first reading of the revision.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to, I mean, you've summarized it. Do we need to read it verbatim? I mean,
I wouldn't say so. I would make one suggestion for consideration, just, and Mr. Curry may say that it says it in another ordinance, but like with Section D, and it's, as Mr. Curry indicated, the language pretty much mirrors each other in the different sections. But in subsection D, when it says that the first sentence, end of the first sentence, the Planning Commission will set a time and a place for a public hearing on appeal, I would suggest setting a time, say within 45 days, or setting a time limit so it's not just out there for appeal. Does that make sense?
We got which section? We got D and a number of them, but which section?
I'm looking at Article 4, section, just the first page. Article 4, Section 4.6D, first sentence. Planning Commission will set a time and a place for a public hearing on appeal. And just say, said time and place will be set, or the date will be set within, 60 days, 45 days, whatever the Board of Commissioners recommends, but I would suggest to put some type of time limit on it. Just so it's not just kind of hanging in the air.
Mr. Chairman, we can make that change. It's not a problem. We can have that altered for your next meeting.
okay. Any other?
And what would you suggest?
The language that he talked
What
about.
I'm talking about,
The time.
2
what's
weeks,
the-
3 weeks.
Oh, for setting the public hearing? Well, number one, if the attorney thinks there's a sort of a traditional number, I would say at least no more than 30 days.
Okay.
Whatever, I was just kind of thinking of the cycle for the Planning Commission to make it back around. So if 30 days is sufficient, I think that would be fine.
Just take a look at it, whatever
Sure.
you recommend. But I mean, I understand your point about not having it just out there. And so, anything else? Okay. Well, that will suffice as our first reading of it. So we'll make that revision. We'll bring it back, put it on our agenda for the next meeting, do the second reading, and then vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, pleases the board, we'll move along. Public comments. We don't have anyone signed up for public comments tonight, so next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and you have for your consideration on the consent only one item, and that's the approval of the August 8th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. So can I have a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion made and seconded to adopt the consent. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay, new business. Approval of resolution 11.2023, authorizing the 2023 tax levy. So, it's that annual thing that we're required to do. So you have before you the resolution authorizing the 2023 tax levy. Jason, is there anything you want to add, or you just want me to?
The one thing I do want to just point out is that the chairman had asked me, and I think we either have this conversation every year or every other year. And I know I've had it many times in my career, but I just thought I would share what we found with the rest of the board with regards to the millage rate concerning the Board of Education. So the chairman's question was, well, what if we don't levy the rate that they send us? And my response to the chairman was, well, we have to. And he says, well, what makes that so? So what makes that so is Article, sorry, I need my glasses back on. And I sent this out to the board earlier in the week, and I know unless you were struggling from an inability to sleep, you didn't have a chance to look at it. It's Article 8, Section 6, local taxation for education. It basically says the Board of Education of each school system shall annually certify to the fiscal authority, which in those definitions is us, their millage rate. And two sentences later, said fiscal authority or authorities shall annually levy. So it's shall and shall.
And
that's in the state constitution, not in code. So that's why we always have the school board's millage on our resolution every year. So
we get correspondence from them where they certified this, and then
correct.
And we're adopting it. So we'll try to remember that, so we don't have to ask you again
No.
4 more years. But it just always seems odd. I mean, they are a tax levying body, and then here it is on our resolution adopting it. So, any questions or concerns? If not, I'll go ahead and step through this. Okay. Whereas pursuant to the authority set out in Article 9, Section 4, Paragraph 1 of the Constitution of the State of Georgia and OCGA 48, TAC 5, TAC 400, Upson County is authorized to levy taxes for the operation of county government and the public schools. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of Upson County has determined that it is necessary to levy an ad valorem tax on all taxable property in Upson County for the purpose of funding public services provided to the citizens of Upson County in 2023. And whereas all legal advertisements and public hearings required by OCGA 48, TAC 5, TAC 32, and 32.1 have been conducted in accordance with said laws. And whereas the Upson County Board of Education has certified to the Board of Commissioners of Upson County the tax levy it needs to provide funds for public education in Upson County for year 2023. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of Upson County, Georgia, do hereby levy an ad valorem tax on all taxable property within Upson County for the operation of county government for the year 2023 as follows. Countywide general maintenance and operations millage, 6.45. Unincorporated joint projects millage, 2.71. Unincorporated services millage, 2.75. Further, the Board of Commissioners of Upson County also hereby levies an ad valorem tax on all taxable property within Upson County for the year of 2023 for the support and maintenance of public education and activities necessary and incident thereto in the amount of 14.01 mills. And that would be adopted in this meeting today, 22nd day of August 2023. Is there a motion on this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve made and seconded to adopt resolution 2023 tax levy. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. It seems like we just whiz right through that, but it is such a long process that we have to go through to get to this point, so, but anyway. Necessary business. All right. Gentlemen, next item on the agenda is discussion of the 2024 budget directives from the board to the staff. And Jason, I'm going to just
Sure.
kind of throw it at you because I left my notes at home.
No problem at all. And I'll just briefly go through them, and then we can talk about, what would be the next steps for staff. Whether or not we necessarily need action on this tonight is well, let me get through these real quick, and then. So what, Mr. Chairman, essentially what in the last 3 budget cycles we've asked the board for input on priorities, and really these were just a culmination of different policy statements that come from previous budget work sessions and previous retreats. So it's like, when we put these budgets together, what are we trying to accomplish? We left some of the basic stuff out of them, and you see this every year in our transmittal letter to you when we deliver the draft budget to you for your review and approval. Some of the basic stuff we left out. Of course, we want to maintain and or enhance the existing services. We're always trying to find a way to do that more efficiently. This is sort of the next step of priorities, and I'll read, and you can stop me if you think we need clarification on any of these. But we seek to maintain a stable rate of taxation. Decrease independence on property taxes, so we're always looking at alternative revenue sources to property taxes. Reduce reoccurring year-end fund balances. So we knew that we needed to grow our fund balances to a certain point where we would no longer need tax anticipation notes, where we would have a decent amount of cash flow to get through the year comfortably, and to meet the needs of any type of natural disaster or any non-reoccurring, non-budgeted emergency that may come our way. And our fund balances proved very useful in response to our May storms, where we had an expense of nearly $1.2 million of emergency road repairs. Pursue and maximize alternative revenue sources such as grants, programs, and private funding. Achieve and maintain a stable AA- credit rating. Sustain current levels of service, so we do include a basic statement about that. Seek efficiencies through the review of operating policies, which we're constantly doing, and the creation of new policies where necessary. Explore efficiencies through staff attrition, department reorganization, and public and private partnerships, and I think over the last few years we have done all of that in a pretty robust way. Review fees and charges for service. I think that's going to be one of the more critical ones that we'll be talking about this year with regard to water rates. Not just the cost of producing the water, but also some of the things that we need to examine. I know the city just recently revised their rates, and we're a big customer of theirs. We pass through a lot of their finished water to our own customers, so we'll have to look at that very critically this year. Examine existing contracts and purchasing protocols, and then that could be as easy as, okay, hey, these are some of the services that we probably haven't, professional services we haven't, sought competitively in 4 or 5 years. Maybe we want to look at some of those. One of those is going to be waste management services, because we have a contract expiring. So that'll probably be the largest one that we're looking at for the next budget cycle. Invest in targeted capital improvements to reduce operating. So We're going to be talking a lot about that in the budget cycle because we have a new facility coming online in October of the next year. So that gives us opportunities to really try to reduce our footprint in other areas. So I think as long as we're thinking of those two things in conjunction with each other, that's going to have an effect on our budget. Staffing for a new facility, but winding down and potentially eliminating some old facilities, and what are the associated ongoing impacts of that. Provide employees with market-based compensation that's in line with increases in CPI and other market indicators. That's always been a tough one, especially the last couple of years, but it's something that we've maintained a high priority on. Reward high-performing employees through a merit-based compensation increase plan, and actually we added to that about 2 years ago when we introduced our training and education development plan to that, which gives opportunities to employees to seek additional compensation by getting training that benefits our organization. And then lastly, increase citizen engagement through social media and feedback surveys. And that's probably one of the things we want to talk about this budget cycle too, is personnel related to those activities. And you know, staff has some ideas how we want to go forward into the future, trying to do some of this stuff, so that will be probably included. And then in the second part of the executive summary, and we've just put some other priorities there for your consideration. Whether it's housing or economic development. Economic development's been a big discussion lately. Public safety, environment and land use, and infrastructure needs. We don't really have policy statements on any of those things currently, and those are some of the things we might want to consider developing policy statements on, and then deciding where those prioritize in our budget development cycle. So that's just kind of where the staff is thinking about as we're getting ready to send, and you can tell our staff is thrilled by the fact that it's already budget season. Doug and I have had a conversation about that already this week. But these are the types of things that you have told us to focus on in the past, and I guess we're just sharing this with you taking the opportunity in this meeting to say this is kind of where we're focused. And if we're not focused in the right areas, if you let us know, or you think these need to be prioritized, we can start working on that. If you'd like for us to bring these to the work session, we can certainly do that, and we can talk through them. But I thought at least I would deliver these officially to you today as kind of a kickoff to the budget process.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where would our capital improvement plan fall within this? Because I know I would think that's going to be a big topic for discussion.
So under infrastructure needs and under targeted capital investment for, reduction in operating costs. But if we think we need a broader statement about planning in general, we can incorporate a statement related to the plan in there and implementation of the plan. But mostly what we're looking at is the operating budget.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because I know I think a few of us were here in a meeting when we first received that, but we really never collectively talked about the priorities and what was labeled high priority, medium, low priority. So I think that would be good to have on a reoccurring basis.
okay.
Anybody else? I think, Jason, you summed it up. I mean, this basically is a culmination of everything that we worked on prior years, and we talked about, trying to drill it down into the budget. And I know it's not always doable or easy or well received by some. So, but we keep trying. I mean, at the end of the day, we think things that are near and dear to us. I know stable rate of taxation. We're at a point where we talked about this. Fund balance is we're at that point where I think we have a good number. and just trying to operate on that. This year was probably the best example of the importance of having the right number in your fund balance. And then, our credit rating obviously is very important to us. But, for me, as we move forward into this budget, economic development. And this is more for us. Where do we see us going from a budget perspective? Is there something we need to earmark for, set aside for economic development? And then that's a whole nother conversation right now, and we won't go there. But we know there's going to come a time that we're going to need to have something set aside or something ready, or at least invest in economic development again. We have substantially, but when it comes to the budget right now, I don't think this year going in, we don't have anything programmed for it. So,
and Mr. Chairman, and I think, it's a very difficult and delicate balance, because so much of what I just read, they compete with each other. So you want to do the best you can for your employees to help them with this sort of unprecedented level of inflation. But at the same time, that puts pressure on a goal like a stable rate of taxation. So those two can be competing.
well, and one thing that we've talked about over the years, and we've seen it in some areas and others we haven't, is, we've invested a lot in systems, and designed to create efficiencies, which when you're doing that, then you're as people attrite, if you're being more efficient, do more with less. So I'd really like to see, maybe something this year during the budget, maybe some data that shows where we were and where we are, or some staffs growing. And I know some are, and that, but there were conscious decisions to do that. For instance, when the building and zoning, when our building inspector, we brought him online, code enforcement, that became a priority, and that was an investment that required some growth there. But
We'll definitely be giving you some position control data this year. That was actually one of the, even though we did get the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, one of the recommendations for that was to include position control information in the next budget cycle. So that's our goal, to try to show you which sections of the organization are leaning and which ones are growing. So
if they're growing, is it by default or by design? So,
and along those lines too, we have several positions that we've held open. We'll probably be coming to you and asking you to eliminate some of those.
that's a good news, bad news kind of thing, but, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
one of our policy statements, Mr. Chairman, is seeking private sector partnerships, which really helps us manage our staffing levels. And if you have to have if you're negatively impacted by a poor economy, it's a lot easier to renegotiate or eliminate contracts than it is your friends and your peers. So, and I think this board has been really open, and we've done a lot of that, and I think we'll continue to try to give you those opportunities.
So when you kickstart the budget with the staff, this is kind of be the preamble. Here you
Right.
go.
Mhm.
All right. Don't
This
just
is how
don't
we're-
ignore this.
This is how we're
Don't just
evaluating.
take last year's budget and change the dates on it. Sharpen the pencils, which we say every year. So, anything else, guys? Sound like we're on track. So,
Okay, so just from today's conversation, we'll consider adding some language in there about capital plan implementation, and we'll try to weave that into the language, and we'll put some economic development language in there about,
Yeah.
because ultimately, we're hoping that any economic development activity will help us on the revenue side in the long term.
That would be the goal. Okay. If there's, is there anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, we'll move along. Discussion and possible consideration for the 2023 budget calendar. Well, that should be 2024 budget calendar.
It should.
I'm sorry, I just called that. All right, and so, I mean, for us, it's just, I know you sent out a calendar, Jessica sent out a calendar. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. It doesn't look too daunting to me. There's like 2 days in October, I think it's like the 23rd, 24th of October. We would carve out some time to do like we've done in the past, where select departments, based on what we see from their budget submissions, will come to us.
I think that's the 24th and 5th. Yeah.
And that was close.
That was the one
Mhm.
I was gonna say. That 25th is on my travel days, so I don't know if we can move that to that 23rd and 24th.
Well, if you could just, the big thing here is that as y'all look at your scheduled events, if you could just work with Ms. Jones, and we'll get it done. I think last year seems like it was more of a challenge for some reasons. Am I remembering correctly about some of the meetings? And
Waited late, but you know.
yeah, so, but I don't see anything in there. I mean, the only challenge I see is, we just discussed on the item previously and getting it out, and staff's got to have their budgets back to y'all within like 2 weeks, so I'm sure the diligent ones have already been working on it.
They have.
Yeah, so no action required on this item, just other than we just need to
Our preference would be to adopt it.
adopt that schedule.
Yeah.
You really want to hold our feet to the fire. So,
Well, and just like Commissioner Watson said, if a day has to be moved, but at least we know we know what the target is anyway. And then if there's a potential day that has to go, or we could move it now. I mean,
Yeah, we can move it now, and then another question I have for it is, do you have a time preference? Do y'all prefer that morning, or do you prefer after work?
I'll defer to
I mean, for me, it
folks
depends
who are
on
not as open as I am.
yeah, like the 24th, we have a Board of Commissioners meeting, so I would think it would be right before that, so we're not having to come twice. But if it's a meeting that's just a standalone meeting, then a morning.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
You good with morning?
I guess I got it, huh?
Okay. So just taking into consideration that one day for Commissioner Watson, what are we going to? We don't have to decide now, but we would adopt this calendar as our
Target.
yeah.
target. Yeah, it's a better word than tentative. Tentative sounds.
But also, just to be blunt about it, it adds some teeth to it. So it helps. It not only holds me and Jessica and Doug accountable and Heath accountable, but it says, hey,
It helps you
these
get
dates are set. This is what we have to work with. So adjust your calendar appropriately.
So, question I got about it, so couldn't we move it back to the 25th back to the 10th? Is there going to be some reason that we couldn't do that? Move the 25th back to the 10th right before the county commission meeting?
I would say just for staff purposes of getting everything together, that may be cutting it close.
Potentially, no, the 10th is the meeting we're talking about, potentially.
Changing.
Oh, the 10th? Okay, not 25th.
No, 25th is the one but 10th we're going to be going to the
Right.
conference.
What we're talking about doing it in the morning. I mean, we could try to do it that morning.
Yeah.
The 10th's a possibility, if you're ready. I mean,
We could, we can certainly try.
well, let's just go with it as is, knowing that the 25th is a day that needs to be worked.
Okay.
One day later,
Commissioner Watson, would the 26th work for you also? So either that
That'd be
Monday
better.
or that Thursday will work?
Or Friday, yeah.
Okay.
okay. All right, so staff would like us to adopt this calendar. So is there a motion to adopt the 2024 budget calendar?
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the 2024 budget calendar. Is there any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. Comments? Mr. Tinsley?
Mr. Chairman, if I may address
Absolutely.
someone in the audience just for a moment.
Absolutely.
I have the pleasure of reintroducing to you Mr. Richard Hickman, who a few days ago was appointed as our full-time and permanent EMA director. So I had intended to introduce him at this meeting. He was unsure if he was going to be able to make it until yesterday, so he said I'll be there. So I want to take the opportunity to congratulate him. There was a pool of about 8 other applicants, but ultimately we made the very easy decision that he was the most qualified person for the job. His activities and go-gettingness as our interim director in this short period of time has been extraordinarily impressive, which culminated in a siren test recently, where we're happy to report we're 93% effective and working. So he's been a pleasure to work with so far, and I think every member of this board has had positive interactions with him as our one of our local fire chiefs for many years now. So I'm just glad he was able to come, and I'm proud to say that he's a permanent member of the team now. So. You're very welcome. And the chairman signed the paperwork to send up to Atlanta to be reviewed by GEMA, so it's official. Thank you.
Well, we're all going to probably jump on the bandwagon here for just a second. So try not to, don't let his head get too big.
There's no stopping it.
I concur with everything Jason said. You've been a rock star, fire chief, continue to be, and you're a good role model for all of them, and so you've been there. 3 o'clock in the morning, you're out there. I know, and we appreciate you, and more importantly, we appreciate her letting you do this, because Jason, he kind of misspoke. I think, unless you did something I didn't know about. You said full-time permanent.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's a full-time job with part-time pay. I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that. So we're there with you.
Yes, sir.
Full-time, part-time. We understand that well. So, and you know that being a VFD chief. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'll correct
you.
my statement to say lightly compensated volunteer.
That's a better way to say it. So anybody else?
That's what we put on our job.
Yeah.
I'll go next. Well, I've known Rich for many years now, and I'm glad to see him. I think he was a great choice for the position, and I look forward to working with him as long as I'm able to do this and the people allow me to do this. And he as far as our fire chief, man, like I said, he was definitely a rock star. And we appreciate him and his abilities and his grant writing abilities too.
Absolutely.
Can't let that slide by.
Yeah, that's
Congratulations, man. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was the only comment.
Well, I want to say one other thing, and I don't, for everybody out there too. I mean, when it's rock star in a, you're batting clean up on a really good team. We got a lot of good VFD fire chiefs out there.
Yes, sir, we do.
And I want to thank them as well, because I'm gonna tell you, in the time that I've been doing this and we've been doing this together over the years, we've had some challenges, and these guys have always risen. And so you got a great team to work with. So
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it, sir.
Ms. Jones,
I don't have any comment.
Mr. English,
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
Just one, I'd like to wish Commissioner Ellington a happy birthday. Hard to believe he's 40 again.
I know better.
Well, I couldn't go below where I was.
You did great.
But that's it.
Thank you. I don't really have anything.
And you say happy birthday to yourself?
I did that.
After the year.
I said, "This my birthday?"
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, happy birthday. I was gonna say that. Ben got it. I also want to continue prayers for the volunteer fire department, Logan and Trista. They are, the way I hear it, I haven't talked to them, but social media says that, they're making steps forward. They still need a lot of prayers to get them over the hump. And hopefully they'll be, over that hump and headed in the right direction. And other than that, that's it.
I just want to say congratulations to the new EMA director and happy birthday, and I'm done.
I meant to say that.
Well,
And thank you for coming.
yeah, and since we're doing happy birthdays, our county manager had one last week, so let's don't forget that one. So,
41?
yeah.
49.
Me too.
And then I would encourage all of us, when you get a chance, give Phil Ellaby a call. Phil is retiring effective September 1st, right? So haven't seen much of him lately. I think he's burning some earned leave.
He is.
So reach out to him. Phil he's been here for a while, and he's bridged some gaps on numerous times, and he's one of those that you can always count on to. I've never had him tell me no.
Yeah.
Not many do.
If I may say, he's a utility player.
He is.
Mm.
He is. We're gonna miss seeing him around. And other than that, I don't have anything. So, final thoughts? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a second. All right, we're adjourned. Thank y'all. Hydrate, stay cool. Be careful.
Yeah, I think it's our third time.
Sit down.
It's brutal.
We went out there, some reason we had, and it was just below. But it's 6 off in
We do have a work session. We are having a work session.
It's not next week,
It's a week after. Yeah.
The fire department, we call it first, and then we go up to the board.
I have to dive into the finance. You mean like 2 days? Or at the end of last year?
Probably got 70 to 80.